Jacks in front, he scores! Rudy Burns-Combs! Charbonneau near side on his forehand, fires and scores! Now Louis Onerheim pops out in front, tries to tuck it and scores! Louis Onerheim!
What's up, Jacks fans? Ezra Gennello, joined by Lizz Child of the Lumberjacks business office, and this is episode 1 of our new Lumberjacks podcast, Get Jacked, the podcast. Every week throughout the 2026-27 season, Liz and I are breaking down the games. We're taking you behind the scenes. We're talking with the players. We're bringing you all things Lumberjacks behind closed doors this season. Yep. All right, so Liz, what's on tap for episode 1 here? Now, obviously, we're sitting at center ice at Trinity Health Arena, so there's not much hockey to talk about, but there's definitely a lot to talk about. We're going to break down what an SPDA is. That's a pretty new thing for the USHL this season, how that relates to the Lumberjacks, and of course the first, not the only, but the first 16 players to be announced for the Lumberjacks upcoming roster this season. That's a key word there. First. I don't know how many DMs you've gotten.
Yeah, we don't need to worry, everyone. There will be more than 16 players on this roster.
As a spoiler alert.
But at the same time, I don't know, I feel like the first 16 were kind of already set.
Oh, they're so good. It's going to be another good year in Muskegon. So, before we get into who those guys are, we're going to do a breakdown of each of those first 16 guys. What's an SPDA? Because all players have to sign an SPDA this year in the USHL. It's a standard player development agreement. And long story short, it holds standards for the USHL organization and standards for the players, right? It's an agreement, it's a contract. It pretty much says that there's a standard that every USHL team has to meet when it comes to player development and facilities and training and nutrition and schooling. And it agrees that the player is going to be a part of that organization for the season. Now, it's not the end-all, be-all, right? There's ways for a player to put themselves in a better situation if they're in a situation that's not good for their development or good for their career. And there are ways for teams to move on from players. We see the Lumberjacks over the past few years. You look back at the Jake Marin's trade. He goes to Sioux Falls. Ethan Drabicki goes to Green Bay. Sometimes you have high-end hockey players in an organization like Muskegon, where even though we want them with the Lumberjacks, this just isn't the spot for them. They can go shine and thrive. Jake Marin's a Clark Cup champion. Ethan Drabicki went on a 5 or 6 game point streak after his trade to Green Bay. So this SPDA just formalizes the agreement between the two teams, holds a standard for the team, and helps the player know that he's going to be in a good spot, and he's got that roster spot in the USHL.
But going further than that, it's not just for the player and the team, but it's just like a league-wide standard where it's changing things, where everybody's kind of on that same playing field now, whereas before, not necessarily that certain teams had certain benefits over others, but it just kind of levels things out and gives everyone kind of that peace of mind where you know what you're playing, what you're expecting, just a little more thoroughly than it was before. It kind of brings it up to the level of, some of the other leagues that just have that expectation set when a player signs, how long they're going to be there, what that expectation is, rather than, yeah, you're signed, but you can really just kind of do anything.
And I think what's so awesome about Muskegon and specifically our ownership group, right? Peter Herms, our president, Steve Lowe, and our head coach, Colton St. Clair, right? Is they see that standard that's set, and the bar is always higher in Muskegon, right? Whether it comes to a player's development and ice time during the week as it leads into game times, right? Whether it comes to schooling and helping players get committed to high-end NCAA programs, or the pro hockey guys, right? A guy like Ivan Rapkin, Matt Vigridin, guys that didn't go the college route, but they developed here in Muskegon before moving on and going. And now, Ivan's playing in the AHL. He's playing in a Calder Cup final. Matt Vey is a top 6 forward in the National Hockey League. 2 seasons ago, he was right here in Muskegon playing for the Lumberjacks.
And I might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but I'm going to bring up Carter Miko coming back from BU. He got that NCAA D1 experience, got to experience all that BU has to offer, came here, and still was very much complimentary and saw all of the benefit of being here. So Muskegon has that extra step of, when you come here, you're still getting all the benefits that you want from a D1 program, from a pro program.
You are. Well, that leads us into our returner talk, because the first guy we're going to talk about is in a similar boat to Carter Amico, and that is Rudy Burrs-Collins, who was drafted in the second round this summer by the Edmonton Oilers. Now, the similarity to Carter Amico is two guys that are NHL draft picks. So now there's an extra layer. It's not just the player who's making the decision with his family and his advisor and the NCAA program, but now there's an NHL team in the mix as well. And you mentioned Carter Amico. He goes to BU after a couple of injury-ending seasons. He comes back to Muskegon. It wasn't a pretty decision to make, but he just made a couple comments at the World Junior Summer Showcase. It was the best decision he's made in his hockey career so far. And it's a decision that was made by Carter, by Jay Pandolfo at Boston University, Danny Briere at the Philadelphia Flyers. They all said, it's not attractive, but go back to Muskegon. I think he left after the Clark Cup final a top 2 D-man in the USHL. Not a top 2 D-man on a USHL team. I think a top 2 D-man in the USHL, the way he was playing in that Clark Cup final. But now you get a guy like Rudy Burrs-Collins, and he's committed to Boston College. He's going to come back to Muskegon, come back to the USHL for a year, and you look at the Lumberjacks, and that bar is set a bit higher in Muskegon than most other organizations. It's a decision for Rudy that Edmonton was comfortable saying, yeah, you're going to go back to Muskegon, you're going to continue to develop, they're going to send their development coaches here to Trinity Health Arena a couple times during the year to work one-on-one with Rudy, keep some tabs on him. But I think that this third year in the USHL, this third year for Burrs-Collins, a bigger, heavier forward, 6'4", 203, he's going to dominate. He's going to build his confidence higher than what it was, and he's going to hit the ground running at Boston College next year. And then from there, he's going to enter the Edmonton Oilers prospect pool and organization as a high-end prospect.
And I'm just going to say, like, you talk about the similarities between the two. I feel like the playoff push did a lot for both of them. They both had decent regular seasons here in Muskegon. Like, once Carter Amico got here, he had a decent regular season. Like, he looked good. He was kind of, you know, still getting back on his feet, getting minutes again. But then that playoff push for both guys, and especially Rudy Burrs-Collins, I think he showed off himself a little bit more to where everyone kind of had their eyes open to what he could be and what he could bring, and that's the perfect timing to do right ahead of the NHL draft. Like, our playoffs ended, we had what, 4 weeks, went straight into the NHL draft. Like, what better time to prove, like, hey, when I'm needed, I'm gonna step up. And he talked about it all playoffs, and so did Coach Colton St. Clair. He talked about it throughout the playoffs. Is, you know, those guys need to perform. Like, the big guys who are expected to perform need to perform, and Rudy definitely was one of the ones that turned it on and took that to heart and went, yeah, I do. We talked to him multiple times throughout the playoff run about it, and he said it himself of like, yeah, that's expected of me and that's what I need to do. Went into the NHL draft with a little bit of swagger, went into the NHL draft with a little bit of like, yeah, I did what I needed to do, like, look at me now. And you know what, it worked. Second round pick, not too bad.
I mean, you look at the games he's played in the last 2 years. He's played in back-to-back Clark Cup finals. He's been now to 2 World Junior Championships with Team Latvia, scored a big goal against Canada this past year. He's going to go back to the World Juniors with Latvia again this year. He played, or at least he was at the under-18s before a lower body injury sidelined him just before the start of the tournament. So this guy plays a lot of meaningful hockey. We got a little scout talk here. Matthew Berman from the Hockey Writers, he said, Burrs-Collins uses his long reach to his advantage. He can hold on to the puck, keep plays alive in the offensive zone, and win board battles. He's a good playmaker and is defensively sound, with room for improvement, of course. This is junior hockey. If there was no room for improvement, he'd be on the Oilers next season. His long reach is always a plus, and he can deflect pucks. He can take draws in most situations and is relied upon there, which is a great attribute to have. Now, Rudy had 25 points in 48 games during the regular season, 10 points in 16 Clark Cup playoff games. But with Rudy, it's not even about the goal scoring and the point production. It's all about the things he does down the middle of the ice, the way he dominates the game, imposes his will on his opponent. He's going to take that to the next level this year. I think you're going to see his point production tick up a little bit in his third year in the league. But if he can continue to dominate physically and turn into that really strong power forward, I mean, he's going to project as a really good middle six forward in the National Hockey League, a guy that can use his size to the best of his ability.
Well, and that was a conversation even last September of what does Rudy Burrs-Collins need to do? He needs to use his size. He needs to learn how to play more physically, get that confidence up. I think he did that this year. And he said it even at the draft, he said it to us, like his defensive game is where he, this season, felt he shined, and he wants to get back to that scoring touch as well. And when he puts 2 and 2 together, when he gets that defensive side of his game, that defensive physical side, and adds in the scoring that we already know he can do, he just throws it together, he's going to be kind of unstoppable this year. So that's going to be something to look forward to, and it's going to be something that Edmonton's going to be really excited for. Because the other thing to note is Edmonton, he was the first pick that they took this year. They didn't have a first-round draft pick. So for Edmonton, he was their first-round draft pick. That's how much they believed in him, that they took him as their first pick this year. If that's not going to be a confidence builder for him, I don't know what's going to be.
And it's a prospect pool where he's going to get a lot of runway to shine, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the high-end prospects in the Edmonton organization, the sub-20-year-olds in that organization. He's right at the top of that list. But talk about size and impact, mix in a little bit of speed, and you get Louis Jonerheim, another returner from last year's Clark Cup final appearance team. Louis joined the Lumberjacks midway through the season. Now, he was a bit of a quirky situation. He comes to Muskegon from the BCHL. I think he's better than a BCHL player. He came in, he had an impact right away. 11 points in 24 games. Another one of these guys last year, you don't really want to look at the point production. That wasn't his role on a very stacked offensive team. He was a bottom six forward for the Lumberjacks, but when they need him to, and especially during that Clark Cup final, Game 3, double OT win, Melvin Novotny goes down with an injury. Louis moves up to that top six role, a big assist on the double OT winner, 9 total points in 16 games for the future RIT Tiger out of Lund, Sweden.
Yeah, we discovered this offseason. His nickname for the year is going to be the skilled beast, and that's really what he is. You've been talking about it. He has the size. Like, I'm going to be honest, standing next to him, I'm like almost 5'6", so I'm not that tall. But standing next to him, is that a flex?
Is that a flex, your height, 5'6"?
I mean, take it how you want, but standing next to him, every time I'm just like, you know, we've got some tall guys on this team. Like, we talked about Rudy Burrs-Collins, we talked about Carter Amico, so like last season, we had some big guys. Louis Jonerheim is still one of those guys that I stand next to and I'm like, wait, how do you exist? We were joking with him last season because we got sent a photo of him like as a 13-year-old, and he's already like 6 foot tall. Kind of insane.
He's now 6'4", 207 pounds. I'm not going to read this whole quote, but a quick scouting report from Whitaker Hart at Elite Prospects. This was from the Lumberjacks game, April 30th against Madison, and the first 2 lines is, "This was originally an ISO viewing for another player, hijacked by Jonerheim's wild work rate. He's huge at 6'4" and has pretty legitimate pace in a straight line, dumping pucks, stepping around defenders, and blowing their doors off." That's Louis Jonerheim.
That's the thing, is like, he is huge, but you watch him skate and you're like, this is gonna maybe sound bad to some people, but you skate like you're like a 5'8" player. Like, you don't often find that combination of guys with like massive size and skating ability that Louis has. Granted, could it be better? Always. Again, junior hockey, every aspect of every game could be better. It doesn't matter who you are. But for where he is and what he needs to do to prove himself, like, it's kind of crushing it right now, and it looks really good.
The last sentence in the scouting report was, "Unlikely he becomes an NHL pick as a double overager, but he's intriguing nonetheless. I want to watch more." And the good news is, for Whitaker Hart at Elite Prospects, he's going to get to watch a lot more of Louis Jonerheim in Muskegon. Another intriguing guy who's coming back after a mid-season transition to the USHL and Muskegon, Will Schlechtweg. Future Maine Black Bear. He's going to play some Hockey East NCAA college hockey when he makes the jump. Joined the Lumberjacks in December of last year. Had 70-something points in 30 games playing prep school hockey at the Kent School. Had 4 points in 25 regular season contests here in the USHL. But you listen to Will talk, And he said last year was a learning experience for him. He didn't make that transition to Muskegon because he was looking to have the best second half of the season in the world. He made the transition early because this is the year that matters for him. This is the year that he's going to put it all together. He's going to know what the transition looks like, know what the game looks like when he gets to Muskegon in late August for training camp.
Yeah. I mean, he got that experience last year. He got the experience of being in the buildings, being on the ice for practices, being around the staff. And that's really like what he needed to establish that base. So exactly as he said. But on top of that, like, he's a player that when you watch him and put it all together, like, you can see the work ethic. You can see how much he like wants to be here. And that's the same thing with Louis, really with everyone. But those are two guys, like, back to back, you're talking about him, which is perfect. But those are two guys that want to be Lumberjacks, want to be at this level, and want to be able to like show off, this is what I can do, this is what I can be. So like having that experience from last season, bringing it to this year, being able to again put it all together, I feel like this is going to be a big year because there's expectations obviously from you and me. There's expectations that Will has for himself. But it's also just one of those, being able to watch that, I think, is one of the best parts about being in junior hockey.
I think for me, what sets Will apart is the maturity, right? We're in a day and age where players have all the power on where they go play, especially once you get into that off season without an SPDA sign. Will is a very talented hockey player, a Northeast guy out of Goshen, New York, could have gone to the CUM, JHL, has to do what's right for his career. And he comes to Muskegon. He only played in 25 out of the last 50 games for the Lumberjacks, including playoffs. Only 2 playoff appearances through 16 games in the Clark Cup playoffs for the Lumberjacks. His name was in the out of the lineup section. He didn't say, oh, screw this, I'm going to go to a different league and I'm going to go where I'm going to get the most playing time. It didn't burn a bridge for him. He was mature about it. He recognized that Muskegon might be what is best for his career right now. That's going to help him be an impact player, not just this year in the USHL, but moving forward in the NCAA at the University of Maine, and hopefully for Will, a long professional career afterwards. So another guy, like you said, wants to be a Lumberjack, recognizes the opportunity here in Muskegon, has the trust of the coaching staff now in year 1.5 when he gets to training camp end of August. A guy that Lumberjacks fans should really be excited to see. And another guy who's sort of returning this year for the Lumberjacks, an affiliate player, a 2025 Phase 1 draft pick of Muskegon, now a full-time Lumberjack, Michigan native, Peyton Schneider.
Another guy like Will Schlechtweg, who came in, was really here for the end of the season just as like, you know, I'm going to show up to practice, I'm going to put some work in, I'm going to be in the gym. Like, again, those two, every day I think we're in the gym longer than anyone else. Like, every day I'd be waiting for them to come outside to do whatever, like, interview or, you know, question of the day that we needed to do that day, and they were always the last two. And it was always, oh, where are they? Oh, they're in the gym. They're putting work in. So, you know, I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. I feel like he's maybe coming in a little more underrated, which might be good for him, just because there, again, are maybe some fewer expectations. But I think for himself, those expectations are there. So any of that pressure is really coming from him.
As an affiliate player for the Lumberjacks last year, his use throughout the season was, you know, few and far between. He filled needs for the Lumberjacks. He made his debut, an away game against the NTDP, against the under-17 team. He came from Honey Baked, right, where he was playing during the regular season, a goal and assist, 2 points, and a big win for the Lumberjacks. Mixed in 6 more games to the regular season. He was a traditional black ace in every sense of the word through the playoffs, but he got that experience. He got to know, or he got to see what it looks like to go through a long playoff run, and now the Lumberjacks have an opportunity to go back to the Clark Cup final with a good chunk of guys who have been there and experienced it. You know, you have one guy who got to experience it 2 times now, but you have a whole group of guys who, because they were able to come join the Lumberjacks in the second half of the season, and even though they weren't playing games, they got to go and experience what it was like to go through that. But a guy that did get those games, another guy that had 2 different appearances in a Lumberjacks uniform during the season, and the second of 3 NHL drafted players on this first 16, Teddy Lechner, a defenseman out of Bloomington, Minnesota, joined the Lumberjacks in the first half of the season as a defenseman, wore number 18, a number that was no longer, I think he wore 18, I think that was his. Went back to Minnesota high school hockey, came back to Muskegon to close out the season, earns himself an NHL draft selection, 6th round pick of the Colorado Avalanche. Teddy Lechner is going to be the anchor to start the year for the Lumberjacks on the back end.
5th round
pick.
pick.
5th round draft
pick.
pick.
5th round pick.
It was Carl Axelson in the 6th round, wasn't it? Or was Axelson the 5th round pick?
Yeah.
4th round?
Carl was in the 4th round.
Lumberjacks had a pick in every round
except
other than one.
Except for the 6th.
Except for the 6th.
5th round draft pick of the Colorado Avalanche, which massive. I had the pleasure of being able to see a video of him on the phone when he got that pick. Couldn't be more excited. You know, he's a kid that I'm really excited to watch with a full season here. Just with a full season of confident defensive hockey, but with, like, again, he can score. Mm-hmm. But as you said with Carter Amico, like, ended the season top 2 in the USHL, in your opinion, like, I think Teddy Lechner could be that guy. I think that Colorado got away with one here. And again, if anyone knows me, I guess not again, if anyone knows me, you know I'm not a Colorado Avalanche fan, sorry Avs fans, but I think that they got away with one here, and they're going to be very happy with how he develops down the line. Again, tall guy. I feel like this team is just full of tall guys.
6'2" on the back end, not too bad.
Not too bad.
D-man.
Still has some time to grow too, because it's just crazy to me. But it's just one of those, the way he plays, where it's physical, where I'm not going to say you don't notice him, but he kind of sneaks up on you. Like, he's always there and always around, but he kind of sneaks up on you. And I think that that's going to bode very well for him throughout this season.
You know, it's funny, his older brother Henry put up like 100 points in Minnesota high school hockey, and Teddy is the complete opposite player. If you ask him, he's going to tell you he's a defensive defenseman. So I think Teddy he grew up playing against an older brother who is uber talented offensively, puts up hundreds of points in Minnesota high school hockey. Well, who is Henry playing against in the summers and in the morning skates? It's his little brother Teddy, who got to learn how to be a stout defensive player. He uses every bit of his reach, every bit of his size, tall, lengthy, a little lanky, but again, another one of these guys where he's not going to jump out on the score sheet. He's not going to have a gazillion points next year for the Lumberjacks. Had 2 assists in 21 games in the regular season, 2 assists in 14 games in the playoffs. Those 2 games he didn't play in, he was out with an injury during the Dubuque series. He's going to be a really just strong, top-pair D-man, shutdown D-man for the Lumberjacks this year. I'm very interested to see, and we'll talk about some of the new faces in this first 16, who he gets paired up with from Colton St. Clair, because you have a couple of two-way D-men that love to jump up in the play that we're going to talk about later.
I will say, though, just because you said that, I'm calling it right now. First home game of the season, Teddy Lechner's picking up 4 points.
4 points. First home game against the NTDP under 18 team. All right, it's on record.
I'm going to do it for the home crowd, and it's specifically because you just said that. You said he's not going to jump out on the score sheet. He's specifically, when we're back in this building and there's ice on this sheet, he's going to jump out on the score sheet.
Well, last year the Lumberjacks, they made their home opener. They raised not one but 2 banners and picked up a shutout win over Green Bay. It was Carl Axelson's first shutout in the USHL, a guy that's looking for his first USHL shutout with a similar path to Muskegon as Carl Axelson is Sammy the goalie, Samuel Doyon Cataquiz. Now he's from Falls Church, Virginia and Montreal, Quebec, a dual citizen, so not an import on the Lumberjacks roster, future Quinnipiac Bobcat in the ECAC. Sammy was a 2023 Phase 1 draft pick of the Lumberjacks, so he's been in the Lumberjacks organization for a while now. Came to training camp last year, was in a 3-man battle for the crease, ends up going to the North American League, spending some time down there with the Springfield Junior Blues.
Incredible run.
Great season. Comes back to Muskegon, ends up earning the backup job throughout the postseason run. Doesn't get to play in any games during the Clark Cup playoffs, as it was Carl Axelson's net. But in the regular season with the Lumberjacks, 6 games, a 3.51 and an 8.75 down the stretch. A team that kind of sputtered their way into the postseason.
I don't think that's indicative of anything that goes on to Sammy as a goaltender. The numbers are very much not showing what he can do.
Very athletic, very almost chaotic in the blue paint. but a very exciting goalie to watch nonetheless. I'll tell you, I'm excited to watch Sammy for anything because I'm going to get nice and loud when he's sprawling across the crease, which he seems to do plenty times.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun time. As you said, I think chaotic is probably the perfect word. And not in a bad way, not in a like, oh, this is going to get stressful. But in definitely a, you know, make you sit on the edge of your seat a little bit, lean forward and be like, ooh, what's going on right now? Again, goaltenders where I watch primarily, so it's been fun, you know, watching him throughout the season last year, kind of going back and looking at some of his film from, you know, years before with BK and it's been a fun time. He's one of those goaltenders that just makes you kind of sit there and be like, ooh, what's he gonna do now? Like, okay, does tend to sprawl a little bit. But I think, you know, that's been a part of his game for so long that he knows how to adjust and how to manage it. I think maybe it's going to cause me a little bit of like
anxiety.
What are we doing? I don't know about anxiety. Again, like I said, he kind of knows how to manage it, but I'm mentally just going to be like leaning forward. I'm right behind this net, so one period a game, I'm going to be sitting there being like, hey, what's going on?
Controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Controlled chaos.
He knows what he's doing. It's fine.
Well, that's 6 returners, including the affiliates that played games last year. We've got a couple guys, maybe just one affiliate in this newcomer section. But before we talk defense, we start up front. We start with maybe the biggest name coming to Muskegon as a newcomer. That's Zach Charbonneau. The tender signing for the Lumberjacks. He is all right. He's a Lumberjack.
He's okay.
He's okay.
He's okay.
He's a Lumberjack.
He's okay.
Well, I'd say his 102 points last year in 15U AAA hockey was pretty okay. 51 goals, 51 assists in 50 games with Mount St. Charles Academy. That's just 15U AAA action. In THF, 15U action, 17 points in 11 games. And in the Northeast Pac, 8 games, 14 points, a goal per game producer at 15U AAA. He's going to bring that production, not just because he's skilled offensively, but as a 2010 birth year and a 15-year-old. He's already 6'1", 185 pounds. He dominates the game physically, and if you watched him during main camp a few weeks ago here at Trinity Health Arena, he dominated main camp physically.
Yeah, I also just want to go back and say, if you look at the number of games he played, like regardless of where he played them, the sheer number of games he played last season, insane.
And he was injured for a good chunk too.
Insane. And then on top of that, he came out here a couple times just to visit, to kind of get a lay of the land. I don't know how he did it, just for starters. Like that, our season's long. Hockey season in general is long, but that's insane. Also with, you know, being in school. I can barely do it, and this is the only thing I do. So, anyway, yeah, he's a kid that is just gonna be fun to watch this season. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. He's been excited. He was tendered here for a reason. He wants to be here. He's made it very clear that this is where he wants to play. And, you know, this might sound bad, but, you know, if he lives up to the hype, which we're fully expecting him to do, I feel like everyone else needs to look out. I think Stephen Ellis even said, like, Zach Charbonneau is going to, like, be on the score sheet. He was posting about him before we even got main camp going, just talking about how good this kid's going to be. And I don't know if anyone else knows anything about Stephen Ellis from Daily Faceoff, but he tends to know what he's talking about.
Well, he's going to be another in a long list and a growing list of first rounders to make their way through Muskegon and develop their game if he pans out and plays the game that we know he's going to play. This isn't his first time away from home, right? Sometimes that jump to junior hockey is the first time a player leaves home. He's a Gatineau, Quebec native, played at Mount St. Charles alongside the cousin of Lumberjacks' first round pick, Sasha Boisvert, Thomas Boisvert, the first overall selection in the QMJHL draft. Zach, there's a lot of noise around his name. You saw that with Tynan Lawrence and his decision to come to Muskegon and forego an opportunity to play in the QMJHL. Zach's right there with him. Maybe even more noise around Zach even now with the decision to come to Muskegon.
Really early,
but he's a stand-up individual. He comes from a great family. His younger brother watched 3 or 4 games from upstairs in the press box this season while the family was in town. And before we move on to the next guy, just a quick excerpt from some scout talk. Charbonneau's puck skills are ridiculous, and he carried plays with confidence today. He played with some edge and cut pucks to the middle of the ice, constantly shooting to score. Charbonneau is active in the transition game too, transporting across the lines with solid mechanics. When Czechs pursued him, he was able to defer plays with strong passing mechanics. That's again Whitaker Hart from Elite Prospects from a game on March 29th against a very talented Honey-Baked 15U team that was very good this year. He's big, he's heavy, he doesn't get off of pucks very easily. He gets onto them with pace, and if he's shooting the puck, he's shooting for the back of the net. And if he's not shooting the puck, he's finding open teammates. He's got good vision, good IQ, a good ego on him, which is a good thing.
I've got two things to say really fast, and one has to do with that, which is the only reason I cut you off. Kid plays with some swagger. Kid carries himself with some swagger. He has that confidence of, I'm the best, I'm going to be the best. And before like that takes over any kind of narrative in the public eye, I just need to remind people, like, he's been out here a couple times. We've done some shoots with him. We've done some other like work with him, media-wise. I have never had a kid more willing to move lights around, give creative direction, have his own thoughts of like being willing to work with media, which is huge. Granted, I'm a little biased. It's kind of what I do, but goes a long way. And again, to have someone who, like, without being asked, without having anything, is like, hey, do you need me to move this? Do you need me to help? Like, again, you're gonna see him, like the fans are gonna see him, this league is gonna see him just carry himself as, yeah, I'm here, I'm the best. I think that's earned. We'll see throughout the season, but he also has that like humbleness in him where he's willing to just help and just like be part of things.
He knows he's good at hockey. I think he also knows that there's a lot to prove, right?
Yeah.
This isn't Mount St. Charles. This isn't youth hockey or prep hockey anymore. This is a different level, and at the end of the day, he has had 0 shifts in the USHL, 0 shifts of junior hockey, and he has to prove himself, but as it stands right now, he's got some high expectations, but so far he's lived up to them.
Yeah.
Another guy.
My other thing really fast was, you were talking about his shooting. You were here for this. We did a shoot with him, and I had him on the ice take a couple shots, and I asked him, because I was going to stand behind the net, shooting through the net, I asked him, how accurate is your shot? Which now, looking back on it, is stupid. I asked him, how accurate is your shot? He took a couple, he looked at me and he was like, I think it's probably up there, like I'm one of the best in the class, I think. He took a couple shots. I had my elbow like right next to where I wanted him to shoot. 5 shots in a row hit my elbow directly on. Not like a hard shot, obviously, like the net was there, I was far enough away, but like, I'm gonna say he's got some accuracy. So, just another thing where I'm like, I'm very excited to watch him play this year. We've already got nicknames lined up for him. It's gonna be a good year. Sorry, just before we move on to someone else.
We're really excited. Another guy we're really excited for, a bit of an older player, very smart hockey player, both on and off the ice, Billy McCausland. I love our Northeast prep guys, our New England prep guys. Billy's coming from Nobles and Greeno, which is funny because right now the most famous hockey player to come from their program is a baseball player, and Ben Rice playing in New York. But Billy brings just maturity, I think, is the best way to put it. He plays like a New England prep school hockey player. He's going to dominate the game, right? He does the little things right. He's confident, but not in the same way as Zach. Zach's a loud,
that quiet confidence. Yeah, he has that like sure of himself. Like, I don't need you to tell me that I'm good. We're fine. Yeah, I'm just going to go do my job, and you'll see when I'm out there.
He's going to be a guy, I think, that fans, when David Deputy was traded to Muskegon from Omaha, I don't think I could walk the concourse on game day and not have a fan stop and ask me about number 9 and who is this guy and why do I like him so much. That's going to be Billy McCausland this year. People are going to, and hockey people are really going to enjoy watching him play this season. 26 games last year at Nobles, 43 points, pretty even split, 21 goals, 22 assists. Again, this is a guy that he's going to jump off on the score sheet. When you read the game recap, you're going to know his name a lot, but when you're watching the game, you're going to find yourself saying, wow, that was a really good play.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a really good play. That was
going to enjoy
another
watching
good play,
him.
right? And you're going to realize at the end of the game that all those good plays happened by the same guy.
Yeah. He's one of those, like, He was here for main camp for a couple days, was still in school, so had to like go back and finish some classes. But just for the couple days he was here at main camp.
All right, this next guy, HK Nitra. Now, we don't know if it's Nitra or Nitra, which is funny because we had 2 Jacks alumni, plus the older brother of a current Lumberjack on the team, and I still don't know what it is. Plenty of resources to go find out. But it's not the guy everybody wants us to talk about. Don't worry, we're going to talk about him plenty. But when I tell you that this player is so overshadowed, and it's like the #1 guy who shouldn't be overshadowed, it's Maxim Shimko. 65 points in 33 U20 games in Slovakia last year. Played 15 games U18 international for Slovakia, team captain. 12 total points on 7 goals, 5 assists. He's an uncommitted forward, obviously out of Slovakia, out of Poprad. 2008 birth year. This is a guy, and I'm not going to read this whole scout talk from Hansa, one of our favorite scouts at Elite Prospects. A player to watch for the 2027 NHL draft. He's coming to Muskegon. He's going to tear up the USHL. He was a Phase 2 pick, 75th overall by the Lumberjacks this summer. He's going to be a first-line center or first-line winger, right? He plays both positions here in the USHL. He's going to be a guy that he can play with that other Nitra guy on some nights. He can play with Burrs Collins. He can play with Charbonneau.
If the other Nitra guy is here.
We'll see. We haven't announced all plays. Yeah.
We know nothing, if we're being honest, guys.
Anywho, this guy is a playmaker. He's the kind of guy that everybody else on the team wants to see him on their line when they get the line chart earlier in the day and they get ready for the game. When you see that Maxim is either your center or on your wing, you know there's a strong chance your name's on the score sheet that night.
Yeah, one of those guys that we were looking forward to selection in the Phase 2 draft this year. As soon as we saw him, we were looking him up, we were watching some stuff, and we were like, oh, this is going to be good. Yeah, this is fun. There's not a lot we can say right now. He hasn't played here, but everything we've heard, everything we've seen, it's going to be a good time. He's excited to be here. When we asked guys for what they were doing over the summer, was like responding and being like, I can't wait to be there. I'm really excited, which, you know, for us is a good sign of, you know, guys want to be here, guys want to play here. So just kind of going back to that in case people weren't aware already. But he's going to look good. He's going to make plays that, you know, we're not necessarily used to, because he's coming from a different system that we've had guys go to, we have had guys from, but he plays such a different way himself that it's going to be nice for us to just kind of get that new play system going.
Lumberjacks had 3 or 4 draft picks in the Phase 2 draft from HK Nitra this summer. You look at the players that have come to Muskegon from Slovakia over the last 2 years. It started with Shikabut Ngadziev, who is a Russian native but represented Slovakia on the international stage and is back in Slovakia playing with Nitra. Just won a championship
with
alongside Josh Lawrence, Tynan's older brother, and Matej Pavlovic, a Lumberjacks alum. Luka Radivojevic, who was an alternate captain this year, World Junior Slovakia team, was the team captain for the under-18 Slovakia team, his last year of eligibility for that roster. And Adam Belushko, the other alternate captain for Slovakia at the World Juniors last year. 3 really talented Slovakian-born players to come to Muskegon. Obviously, Steve Lowe has a pipeline going right now, the Lumberjacks president. Maxim Shimko is going to be the latest to come from that pipeline. His scout talk here, decent speed, mobility, and edge work. I'll need to see more of him, but with the puck skills he flashed, he could be a player to monitor, like I said, for the 2027 NHL draft. A guy who's going to be in the conversation, and right now he's a late round conversation guy. And you have more to say about him than I do. Drew Fox, Irving, Texas native, comes from Dallas Stars Elite. We know how talented that program is and churns out major junior USHL talent on a yearly basis. 16 UAAA team last year, 50 games even, 75 points in the Tier 1 Elite League, 16 games, 30 points. So he's He's a 2-point per game guy. Last year, he's going to bring that production to Muskegon. An undersized forward. Look for him to be a middle 6, top 9 forward for the Lumberjacks next year. But he's going to bring that production. He's going to take a good step in his career, making the jump to junior hockey.
Yeah, I was lucky enough I got to watch Drew Fox and the Dallas Stars Elite team at the Fall Classic back in Pittsburgh in September, which was kind of crazy to me, but I also got to keep an eye on them. I was, living in Austin, so I had the Dallas Stars Elite decently close by. Not that close. Texas is huge. It's kind of insane. But also just the Texas Stars Elite program. How many times can I say Texas Stars Elite? It's just such a pipeline for guys who want to develop and such a big thing. They've been in the news for a lot of various things lately, but you cannot deny how many guys come out of that program and just kind of start killing it in the juniors game. In the next few years in the NHL, we're going to start hearing guys who came through that program, like left and right. And Drew Fox could be one of those guys that's, maybe a little underrated. He played with a very good team, had like Ezekiel Cabell on that team. And just a fantastic year. But he's one of those guys that I think like we're really going to like here in Muskegon. Isn't going to be that flashy guy, again, kind of more like a Billy McCausland where he knows he can play well. He's on currently the camp roster for the Team USA for the Holinka Gretzky. He's currently kind of going out to those USA events and making a name for himself. Was at the U17 showcase or whatever it's called. The U17 event, festival. There we go, not a showcase, festival. And, turned some heads. People kind of were looking at him like, where did this kid come from? And, Dallas Stars Elite's going to be a pipeline for a while. And just having those guys come through that system, he's going to be really exciting to watch this year.
All right, so that's Drew Fox. That's Drew Fox. I like Drew Fox. I think, a guy that just made his way through the USHL, who I think Drew Fox, without watching much of his game, is Jack Hextall. A little bit playmaker, can score when he needs to, but is going to be good offensively, undersized forward. And that's a guy, Jack Hextall, who snuck into the first round of the NHL draft this year, played at the Holinka Gretzky Cup last year, had a really great showing, showed off his playmaking ability as the kids here in Muskegon showcase why it's raining outside, so you got to come inside and have some fun. Let's talk one more forward here real quick, and that is another Michigan native and another, just like Drew Fox, former member of the Sioux Falls Stampede organization. That's Aiden Jans, who started the year last year in Lincoln, was traded to Sioux Falls midway through the year. I believe an injury cut his season short. 39 games total between the two organizations, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 total points. This is a really great addition by the Lumberjacks. There's not a lot of returners coming back to Muskegon this year. You have Rudy Burzkons, you have Teddy Lechner, Jonerheim, Schlechtweg, right? 6 total returners. That's it, that are among the first 16 announced for the SPDA signings. So you go and get a guy like Aiden Jans, who's got a couple years under his belt. He's from Michigan. He's older, 2007 birth year. He's going to be a really great steady presence on the front end for the Lumberjacks this year.
And I got to work with him a little bit before I came to Muskegon, went back at the Fall Classic, and he's got a personality. He's going to be a fun guy to have in the room. He's going to be a fun guy to have, just around, keep the spirits a little bit lighter, but also has that experience on the ice, has that USHL background already, has kind of seen it, been up and down with, Lincoln's performance to start the season, and then they came surging back last year, was part of that before he got traded to Sioux Falls. And now he's coming here and he's going to have that background already set. But he also has that, keep things fun, keep things light. This is junior hockey. We're still going to have fun. Before it's a serious professional job, you get to still have a good time out here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing on and off the ice what he's kind of going to bring to this room.
By the way, you mentioned fun. You heard the kids having a good time behind us. We're at center ice inside Trinity Health Arena. The ice is out. It's the middle of July, almost August.
It's almost the end of July, yeah.
Almost the end of July. So the ice is out. The players report end of August. So mid-August, the ice will go back in. The preseason will start September 5 and 6. The Jacks take on the Youngstown Phantoms here at home, and then the USNTDP under 18 team in a home-and-home series the next week Kids Day game on that Friday. Then we go over to the east side of the state. Lumberjacks home games are so fun. The kids are here. They're playing Pop-A-Shot upstairs in Rad Dad's right now. You have Carlisle's behind us. It's an unreal experience, especially when you get the international guys that come over and the families get to experience Muskegon for a couple of days.
You get a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Well, I know a family that should be really excited to come to Muskegon. That's the Farhammer family. Felix Farhammer, our third and final NHL draft pick on this first 16 players that have been announced. A defenseman out of Stockholm, Sweden, a 2025 7th round draft pick of the New York Rangers and future UMass Minuteman. So another future Minuteman coming to Muskegon from Sweden, Melvin Novotny.
I was going to say, not a bad pipeline going on right there.
Not a bad, you know who's excited? Johnny Lazarus is excited to see that pipeline. He's got good size, 6'1", 192, smooth skating, two-way D-man. Now this guy I think is going to be a really great 1-2 punch alongside Teddy Lechner, because Teddy Lechner is going to be shut down. He's going to take away the top D pairing, or top offensive unit for the opposing team. Felix Farhammer, who had 33 points in 36 games in the U20 National League last year with Örebro in Sweden. He's going to have a lot of fun nights putting up some points in Muskegon in the USHL this year.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, you were talking about who's going to be a defensive pairing with Teddy Lechner. You could see someone like Felix Farhammer. Again, right now we have no idea. No one's been here. No one's been on the ice together yet as a group, but he's a guy I think could complement very well. But also, if you have him separately, I feel like that also, spreading the wealth. That said, I don't think anyone in our lineup is going to be hurting for some plays this year. But yeah, I'm excited to see him. He's been posting, he and the people he trains with over the summer have been posting this year. Another guy who's very excited to be here. As you said, his family is probably like chomping at the bit to get out here. But it's going to be fun seeing him here, but also just the amount of work that he's been putting in. Again, everyone has been. It's the off season. That's kind of just, this is where you put that work in. But he's been kind of showcasing it a little bit, which makes you think like, oh, he's purposely stepping up this year. He's trying to show another side of his game, and I'm really excited to see that out here.
It's really interesting when you get these NHL drafted players that come over, and it's their first year of hockey in North America. They're really trying to prove themselves, because it might actually be the first time that NHL GM has a chance to see them play in person. You look at Victor Noringer, Melvin Novotny, a couple guys that didn't play in World Juniors, a couple guys that, they played in Sweden, they come over to Muskegon, they're now going to college, but their NHL teams, they drafted them almost sight unseen, taking the word of the European scouts. Now you get a chance to go play in front of your NHL team, and especially at the USHL Fall Classic, which is in Chicago this year. Every NHL team sends their front office staff, sends their amateur scouting department. The Rangers are going to get a really good look at Farhammer if he's there. You might do the same thing as Vic did last year. You might just hang out in New York and play in their rookie showcase like Noringer did and miss those first 2 games of the year.
Just on that note, I mean, like, we've got a few guys, like, I'm going to be honest with you, Burrs Collins could be in that situation. Teddy Lechner honestly could be. It's one of those we don't know who's going to be sent back and forth, and I'm really excited to see what happens at the Fall Classic and who we have. But also when we get back home and after all the Fall Classic hype is done, when everything's back and set in stone, it's going to be an interesting combination.
Felix was the 9th overall pick by the Lumberjacks in the Phase 2 draft this summer. I use the saying, Steve Lowe hasn't confirmed or denied the saying. I like it though. You build your future in Phase 1, you build your roster in Phase 2. Well, a former Phase 1 pick of the Lumberjacks back in 2025, AJ Valenti, spent this past year in the BCHL, started in Sherwood Park, finished off in Langley, had a bit of a quirky season with a mid-season injury that kept him off the ice for a little bit. Still played in 33 regular season games, had 7 total points, played in 6 playoff games, scored a goal for 1 point. He was the 40th overall pick in the Phase 1 draft back in 2025. This is the guy that I think you can put him with Lechner, or you could put him with Farhammer. He's smaller, 5'9", 165 pounds according to Elite Prospects. But listen to this scouting report from Yannick Beichler.
It's my same reaction.
From Elite Prospects. This is August 12th at the U17 national tournament against Czechia. Valenti stood out early with his mobile skating and puck carrying ability, but as the tournament went on, he impressed more and more as a strong two-way presence. His quick feet, good edge work, allowed him to walk the blue line and make plays in the back end. He had multiple pinches where he used his hands and feet to get around opponents and walk down the boards. However, he also displayed impressive gap control, a strong defensive stick, and a surprising ability to throw his body around. He's listed at 5'8", 150 pounds, making him the smallest defenseman on the team, but he was a consistent physical presence in the neutral zone and defensive zone. This is a guy who I think is going to play a combination of Barrett Dexheimer and Danny Clares. He's going to float up, he's going to lead the rush, he's going to be on the power play for the Lumberjacks. It might not be power play 1 or power play 2, it might be that power play 3 unit with having guys like Farhammer on the roster and Lechner and Dystad. You never know if they're going to go a 5-forward unit, but Valenti has the ability to quarterback the power play from the blue line, has the ability to lead rushes, but even though he's a smaller guy, he's not going to give up anything in the back end.
I feel like we've heard some jokes like throughout this season about, you know, my bio on my social media starts with goalie heights don't matter. I feel like I should just extend that at this point to just hockey player heights don't matter. I wasn't shy about it. I was a massive fan of Drew Stewart before I got to Muskegon. When I got to Muskegon, I feel like he's earned that. You can see it day in and day out with him. So talking about guys like Drew Fox, who, you know, you call him an undersized forward. You talk about AJ Valenti, you call him a smaller defenseman. Like, oh, he's the smallest defenseman on the roster. We're getting to a point where that's mattering less and less. You've got skill, you've got the ability to play. Like, you're going to show it, and people are going to see it. They're going to recognize it, and then when you don't get drafted or you don't, like, whatever happens, people are going to ask, like, what are people not seeing in this guy? AJ Valenti is one of those guys where I don't think people are going to have to ask, like, why is he not getting picked for things? He's one of those, like, people are talking about him. He's kind of turned some heads, got a little bit of chat going on about him. I still think he's going to have to prove himself. Just, again, being one of those smaller guys, you just, sake of the game, you have to kind of prove it a little bit more. But he's got the tools to do it, and he's got the desire to do it. Like another kid where the amount that he wants to be here and wants to prove, like, hey, I deserve to be among that discussion, I think is going to be a big part for his year.
The Lumberjacks got him at 40th overall in the Phase 1 draft. This is a guy that was good enough to sign a tender in his USHL Phase 1 draft here. This is a very talented defenseman. He got to play junior hockey last year. I think he's going to take another step. You know, he's looking for that college commitment. He's going to be a difference maker in college hockey, and he's going to build that here in Muskegon. We're going to stick on the back end, 2 more defensemen and then a goalie to talk about as we round out these 16 guys. Will Dystad, a Phase 2 first-round pick by the Lumberjacks, 14th overall. Jacks had 2 picks in the first round of Phase 2. Dystad, a native of White Bear Lake, Minnesota. He'll play college hockey in the CCHA at Minnesota State Mankato. Another product of the BCHL, played last year in Coquitlam with the Express. 48 games in the regular season, 3 goals, 13 assists, 16 points. Again, 6'1", 196, bigger size D-man, not the biggest guy. He's not sacrificing his first step or any speed on the back end, but he's going to be a bigger body. He's going to have some jam in the net front areas. He's going to be a good, solid defenseman for the Lumberjacks. He's going to build that foundation, or continue building it, as he prepares to go make the next step to the college hockey in the future years.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him. He's one of those players that kind of silently was creeping up at camp for me. He didn't look bad, but it took me a minute for my brain to connect, like, oh, this is going to be a guy to watch. Again, we talked about him beforehand as, you know, the draft happened, and kind of throughout the, hey, who do we think we're going to see this year? He was a name that kept popping up, but it was one of those for me that I think he's going to build as the season goes on. Like, fans are going to know him more and more and kind of tune into his game as he's here, which feels like a cheap thing to say, right? Like everyone's gonna, as the longer they're here, the more people are gonna see them. But I think he's a guy where you're gonna see him at the beginning of the season, and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is gonna be a guy to watch, I guess, sure. And then as the season goes on, you're just gonna be like, wait, when did I start like following him this closely? Like when was I so invested? And I think he's a guy that's gonna sneak up on a lot of people.
All right, finally the last defenseman that we have here, acquired by the Lumberjacks from the Omaha Lancers. Now, I think this was part of the Bronco Vukas trade, but I'm not sure. I think that, again, a trade like that, the Lumberjacks and Lancers have swapped players a lot over the past few years. You look at the main camp roster for the Lancers, and you have Reese Lance, and you have Ryan Aronson. You have a couple different Lumberjacks that are there that are going to be on their roster this year. Well, the Jacks got Bronco Vukas this season. They got David Deputy the past year. It's going to be the third straight year they have a difference maker on the roster. This time, Ari Popovsky, a mid-sized D-man, 5'11", 194, young guy, 2009 birth year, out of Highland Park, Illinois. He's going to come back to the Midwest from the East Coast, played at Mount St. Charles on the 16U team. 27 points on the back end to go along with 4 goals and 23 assists in 37 games. Just a good young D-man, might be a multi-year guy here in Muskegon. He's going to start strong. He's going to finish off his Lumberjacks career in a really strong way. I mentioned Danny Clares a little bit earlier. Ari Popovsky screams Danny Clares timeline-wise.
And this was a conversation that we had earlier, like this week. Last week, this week, I don't know. It's off season. It's all the same. We had very recently, I was going through some scouting reports of some of these guys, just kind of to get used to who's coming in and what's going on. And the thing that I kept seeing with Ari Popovsky is he doesn't make mistakes. He plays a very clean game. Like, he's going to be the guy where you just need someone to show up and be that defensive player that you can count on. You know he's not going to make a really bad decision. Like, everything that I was reading was he's a kid who doesn't make mistakes. He's a guy who's going to be out there, and you're going to be able to just be like, yeah, he's going to do what he needs to do. I'm very much looking forward to that. That said, if he wants to get a little more creative throughout the year, like, I think he's going to earn that trust of, you know what, yeah, go do your thing. Go try something different. Go, be the player that, takes a little bit more of a risk. And I think that being here is going to help him with that as well. But at the same time, that reputation of being a very consistent, no mistakes player is going to go very far in a coaching staff and a hockey operations staff's eyes at this level or really at any level.
You know who likes that too? Your goalie loves that. We're talking about our second goalie, another Swede, third Swedish player. Lumberjacks love their Swedes. Oscar Westman, 2026 Phase 2 pick by the Lumberjacks, 94th overall. Out of Stockholm, comes from Brynäs, pretty good program over in Sweden. 22 games in the regular season, a .260 and an .898, a 12-8 record in the regular season. He elevated his numbers in the playoffs, 8 games, a .913 save percentage, and a .258 goals against average. Westman, lengthy, 6'4", already 203 pounds. He's a bigger guy. There's not a lot of scout talk around him. He's a bit of an unknown when it comes to what to expect from Oscar when he gets here to Muskegon. But if he's anything like Carl Axelsson or Shika Godziev or some of these international goalies that we've gotten in the past, the 1-2 punch that you're going to have, and I don't know who's 1 and who's 2, or even if you have 1 and 2, but the 1-2 punch between Westman and Doyan Kataquiz, the Lumberjacks are going to have the best forward core that we've already talked about. They're going to have the best goaltending duo in the league as well.
Yeah, I will say, I was having some conversations with the folks at Hockey Sverige at the draft this year, and we were talking about goaltenders. One, obviously, they were very high on Carl Axelsson, who isn't at this point, especially now. But they were saying, like, don't expect him to be Carl Axelsson, but expect him to be, like, he's going to be that guy. You're not going to get the same out of him just because they are two different goaltenders. Like, they don't play the same game. They're not going to be the same type of game. And they weren't saying, like, oh, he's going to be worse than Carl. They were just saying, don't expect him to be Carl Axelsson. So this is going to be a year of just adjustment, I think, for us, of especially having so much Carl at the end of last season. Oscar's going to come in and he's going to show, hey, I'm here and I'm gonna fight for that number 1 job. Sammy's going to also come in, and obviously he's coming in with a year under his belt playing between Muskegon and Springfield, and he's going to come in and be like, I want that job. This is mine. At the same time, Oscar's going to come in and show off a little bit of, hey, this is why they're bringing me over here. This is why Swedish goaltending is kind of on the rise right now. And I'm excited to see it because the goalie battle is going to be, ultimately, every organization at any level wants a goalie battle between the two goalies. Again, who knows who's going to be one, who knows who's going to be two. I think it's going to be a good year, like you said, best forward core in the league, goaltending, it's going to be up there.
The Lumberjacks, they're poised for another long run through the postseason. It's funny, we had a couple fans who were unhappy that we didn't have any of the returners or some of the big draft picks that came from main camp. And they said, that's the second straight year you've done that to us. And we said, you know what? Do you want us to keep playing hockey through the end of May, through Memorial Day weekend? So
got to give them a break at some point. Like,
exactly.
They've only gone for what, like a week and a half at that point?
And you have guys who are getting drafted and going to rookie camps. So a lot of hockey coming up in Muskegon, a lot of meaningful hockey, a lot of wins this year. The expectations are sky high, just as they've been the last few seasons for the Lumberjacks. So what comes next? We met the first 16. You're going to meet the rest of the roster eventually before game number 1. Players report to Muskegon last week of August, August 24th or 25th. They're here at Trinity Health Arena. Training camp starts. So that's a bit of a bigger roster. That's 30 guys typically will make their way to training camp. And then from there, through the preseason, the roster will get cut shorter and shorter. Lumberjacks take on the Youngstown Phantoms September 5 and 6 right here at Trinity Health Arena. Those are 2 games that fans are able to come to in the preseason. September 11th, Friday morning, 10:30 in the morning. That's the annual Lumberjacks Kids Day game presented by the Muskegon Lumberjacks Charitable Foundation. That one's a bit different of a scenario. There will be tickets available, I believe, but a lot of kids will be in attendance, so I'm not sure how many tickets are going to be available or when they're going to go on sale. So you're going to want to stay tuned on social media because Liz is going to give you that news.
And I know you've had a lot more experience with the Kids Day games, but I was here. That was my first ever Muskegon Lumberjacks game. And until I came in February, it was my only home Muskegon Lumberjacks game that I had ever seen. And that was a fun time. Like the kids get into it.
It is. They do. The Jacks close out the preseason the next night on the road at the NTDP. They take on the under-18 team, both on home ice on the 11th and then over in Plymouth on the 12th. I believe that's the Mitchell Kiefer game the Lumberjacks used to play in every preseason as well. And the Jacks will finalize their 2026-27 opening night roster as they make their way not to Pittsburgh, but instead to the brand new USG Arena at the Blackhawks Ice Center for the 2026 USHL Fall Classic presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. The Jacks, they will play the first USHL regular season game at the new home of the Chicago Steel. They open up the new USHL schedule against the Des Moines Buccaneers on a Wednesday, September 16th at 12 o'clock noon. On Thursday, the 17th, the Jacks close out their Fall Classic schedule against the Waterloo Blackhawks, a team in which the Lumberjacks opened up the season against last year with an 8-round shootout. So always an exciting time when the Jacks take on the Western Conference opponents. The home opener for the Lumberjacks the following week, it's both Flannel Fest on Saturday following the Eastern Conference Championship banner raising. Now, tickets aren't on sale as we record this, but if you check out the Lumberjacks social media channels at Muskegon Jacks on Instagram and Twitter, Muskegon Lumberjacks on TikTok, you'll see that we're slowly but surely revealing some tentpole nights, some of the big theme nights that are coming again this year at Trinity Health Arena. And of course, as we progress through the year, Liz, we're going to bring all the action on Flow Hockey, the official live stream partner of the Lumberjacks, and the behind-the-scenes stuff, player interviews, exclusive content right here on Get Jacked, the Lumberjacks podcast. Final thoughts?
I'm excited and ready to go. We're a month out, and feels like it's coming fast. Also feels like it can't get here soon enough. So
we're at the point of the off season now where I don't get a full night of sleep. I think I went to sleep last night at 11, and I woke up at 2 a.m. And that was my night. That was it. I was awake from then, because you're just thinking you got, you're planning for Flannel
Ready for the
Fest,
year.
you're getting ready for the broadcast, player interviews, all of this stuff coming out together. And when you get to game day and the fans get in and the arena fills up and the fellas get on the ice for that first game, all those sleepless nights, they come to a head. It all feels good. So we're really excited for it. We appreciate you joining us here for episode 1. We'll see you next week right here on Get Jacked, the Lumberjacks podcast.